So Thomas, I think you can mute for a second. Yeah. Okay, good. So I think now we're good. So welcome guys to this session. And today we are going to be taken through how to deploy on Friday night, controlling Gitops with Keptn. And our speaker for today is Thomas Scheutz. I hope I've pronounced the name correctly. Yeah, so but we are very interested and eager to hear what you're going to share. And I believe it's going to be a very insightful session. So we have a quote for today, which is all the days that you wake up, you got one job, and that is to be better every single day. So continuously improving every day will make you achieve more and achieve your goals by the end of a given time frame that you will have given yourself. And you'll be able to learn skills, you'll be able to become experts. So on our agenda, we are going to have an icebreaker, and then we are going to share with you our meeting expectations and also share with you about the community. And then after that, we are going to to welcome the speaker, and he's going to take us through the session. So for our icebreaker, why did the DevOps engineer join the army? So you can respond to this question on the chat. So why did the DevOps engineer join the army? So respond to the question on the chat. Uh-huh. Ebenezer, did you have leakage? Okay, so Ebenezer almost got the answer immediately. So, okay, so the DevOps engineer joined the army because he wanted to be deployed. Yeah, so, and Mamoon, I think you guys had some leakage. You had some answers. So, okay, so our in-house rules, you're supposed to mute yourself when you're not speaking. So for today, I've muted you all by default, so you'll not be able to speak unless you've been allowed. And then you're supposed to raise your hand if you want to speak. So in case you want to speak, you'll be able to you raise your hand. There is a raise hand feature on Google Meet, and then I'll be able to give you the chance to speak. You can use the chat box. Everyone has the permission to chat, to write on the chat box, so you can be able to do that. And as you engage with each other during the session, ensure that you are respectful, and then be curious as well. So we have the mindset of learning and asking questions. Ask as many questions as you can. So about the community. So this is Nairobi DevOps community, and it's a community which was formed basically to ensure that we can be able to expose people who are new to DevOps engineering to experts. So provide a platform where these people can network and also ensure that these people can learn, and also ensure that people who are experienced can be able to share knowledge. So that is part of what we're doing. And we have a lot of things that we do, which include mentorship and things that we do just to ensure that every member of the community can be able to gain. So our vision is to be a leading DevOps community in Nairobi and beyond, driving innovation and empowering professionals to excel in their career. So this is part of our team that ensures that we have these events successfully. And then in case you want to help, you can help the community by volunteering in offering sessions or talks, and or connecting us to people who can be able to talk in our sessions, and also giving us feedback. Feedback can be things that can make us improve, or things that can criticize us to do better. And then we would benefit from you sharing our posts as well. So we post on LinkedIn, on Twitter. We also post on WhatsApp. So you can be able to share what our events. You can share about us when we post something. You can reshare that. You can repost, but you can also post your own information. So in case you come across something that you think other people will benefit from, that is DevOps related, you can share that in our platforms. So any of the platforms you are allowed to share. So you can share on LinkedIn, you can share on Twitter. On Twitter, I don't think you can share, but you can share on LinkedIn, you can share on WhatsApp. So you can be able to share that. And in case you would like to, one of the other things that we are looking for is maybe people who can help us in documentation. So documentation is like when we have physical events, we may want things like photography or videography. So in case you are here and you have that talent, you can reach out and we'll be able to see how you can help us. And also organizing events. So organizing events include events like this one that you're having here right now, and the physical events that we have, the data center visit that is coming up on Thursday and Friday next week, and the Africa DevOps Summit and DevOps Days as well. So those are the things that we need people. So for us to be able to make them a success. So if you think you can help us in organizing, so organizing, it's not just maybe looking for a location or sending information to people to attend the event. There is a lot that needs even brainstorming. So if you think you can add value or ideas that can help us organize better, you can reach out and we can add you to the team. So in case you are not part of our community, but you've joined this meeting, you can scan the codes on the QR codes, and you'll be able to join LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Twitter, and Discord. Discord is not very active, so I recommend you join LinkedIn, WhatsApp, and Twitter. So there you'll be able to see a lot of what we are posting, and you can be able to reshare, and you can also be able to engage with us easily. So the topic for today is how to deploy on Friday night, controlling Gitops with Keptn. And the speaker for today is Timothy. Is it Timothy? I think they misspelled the name. It was supposed to be Thomas Scheutz. Scheutz. I'm sorry, Thomas.
Absolutely no problem.
Yeah. So okay. So welcome. I think at this point you can take it over.
Okay, just a second, then I'll share my screen. And take this one. Okay, hopefully everyone can see my slides. Yes, thank you everyone for attending here. It's really a pleasure for me to speak here. So I talked to Ian, I think, a few months ago, and today was the first date where we had where I had the possibility to speak on Sunday. So for me, it's pretty cool to be here. Yes, today I will talk about Keptn, Gitops, and how we can how it might be possible to deploy it Friday night. My name is Thomas Scheutz. I'm governance committee member of Keptn. I am co-chair of the CNCF to Gap Delivery. Furthermore, I'm CNCF ambassador and so on. And in my real life, I'm working as a cloud architect and also teaching at universities about cloud native technologies and application delivery. So what you will hear about today are some nice things. The first thing is we as a Keptn team, we had a first version of Keptn, we learned from this, and I just wanted to share with you what we learned there. The second thing is why we think Gitops is cool and which things might get challenging. So I worked a lot with Gitops, made my experiences, and I want to share them with you. Furthermore, I want to show you how to measure the success of your deployment strategy. So also some business related things and so on. And we will also talk a bit about the question, if your application is really working and what it means for application to run in Kubernetes. Furthermore, I will tell you something about the community behind Keptn, how you can contribute, how you can work with it, and so on. Everything you see here is open source. If you have some questions regarding the things I'm saying now, or if you say what Thomas is saying is not correct or whatever, just feel free to put it in the chat and we can discuss about this. Okay, so at first, what you see on the left side is Keptn booth. I think it was on KubeCon Valencia. And we talked to people and asked them how they want to deploy their things today, and even what they are using and so on. And what we learned from there was that Gitops is the dominant approach to deliver cloud native applications. So I think everyone agrees. It makes our lives easier. It makes it possible to have them reconciled continuously and so on. Furthermore, we found out that everyone likes the continuous reconciliation in Gitops. And what you important for you is, when we started with Keptn, we followed an approach where we were more of a workflow engine and triggered deployments, waited until they are finished and so on. But in the end, everyone wanted Gitops, wanted Argo CD, Flux, and everything what's in this ecosystem. Furthermore, and this was an interesting part for us, was that people would like to get more control in their Gitops processes. So normally, if you put something in a Git repository and put a Gitops controller behind it, and I will talk about this a bit later, Gitops controller will take the Kubernetes manifest, will take whatever configuration is in there and apply it. But normally you have not really much possibilities to do some checks before it, try to find out if it works afterwards, and so on. And this was a thing where we thought, yes, our product could evolve in such a way. Last but not least, we also found out that release promotion, so promote from one stage to another, is also a major topic in Gitops. And this was also one thing we wanted to achieve in the end. Okay, and during this time, I also worked a lot with Gitops. I learned lots about Argo CD, Flux, and so on. But I also found out some challenges. So at first, I want to share with you why Gitops is successful, in my opinion, how it works, and where the challenges are. At first, let's get to the start. Normally, when you are working with Gitops, you are selecting a Gitops controller. So the first, there is one which is called Flux. There is one which is called Argo CD. There are also some other ones. I think Fleet and so on are ones. And the first thing the thing you always have in your Git repository is more or less a desired state. So you have a configuration in there most of the time in Kubernetes, which is stated in Kubernetes manifests. You say, I want to have this application with 5 replicas running. And in the end, the Gitops controller does nothing more to put exactly this state to the Kubernetes cluster, and Kubernetes deals with it in a way that it shows you that it has the logic embedded to know how it gets to this state. So we have some very nice things in this behavior. The first thing, our desired state is always written in a declarative way. So we don't have to care about how we get to the state. There is some logic behind it, which knows from when I have this current state and this desired state, I know how to get there. And this is perfectly fine in my opinion. Furthermore, with Gitops itself, the desired state is continuously reconciled to the Kubernetes cluster. So if you change something on your Git repository, it will be reconciled on the Kubernetes cluster. So if you switch the current 3 replicas to 4 or 5, you will spin up for, 2 more Kubernetes clusters, 2 more replicas of this service. And furthermore, if someone on the Kubernetes cluster changes the state, you have some kind of drift detection, you have some kind of reconciliation, which reverts the changes on the Kubernetes cluster. And for me, it's always important to have the source of truth in a Git repository. And in my opinion, normally in production systems, nobody should have write access on the Kubernetes on the cluster itself. So if someone, if it has to be that someone has write access on a Kubernetes cluster, it might be very nice not to change things which are not in the Git repository. Okay, but we also have some kind of cloudy things here, so which are not very nice, which can be problematic and so on. And the first thing I found out was many people deploy many services as one application. And if we take a closer look on Kubernetes and the whole microservices world together today, especially in Kubernetes, Kubernetes knows about workloads such as pods, deployments, stateful sets, and so on, but it doesn't know what applications are. So it has no clue about if service 1, 2, and 3 belongs to one application, and it will never know if this application has really finished deploying, and also it doesn't know if the application itself is running. The second thing I found out, scheduled deployment with Kubernetes might also be some kind of challenging. So I learned about development teams who wanted to deploy their services at 1 o'clock in the evening. For myself, I think that you shouldn't deploy applications based on a daytime. You should deploy applications when they are ready. But there are some reasons why this could be this could be a requirement, and therefore this was also a thing I found out that it's not so easy to implement. A third thing I dealt a lot about in the first Keptn version was the integration in CI/CD pipelines, especially when talking about Gitops. Because at some point, when writing a manifest to a Git repository, the pipeline breaks in more. This should be the end of the pipeline, because otherwise you cannot get any response back to the pipeline. Yes, you can put. You can wait for deployments to occur. You can write some webhooks after they are deployed and so on, but it will never get pretty. And the last thing I found out was that promotion with Gitops might be challenging. Okay, so we talked a bit about Gitops, but to get one step forward, we might have to, so in traditional system and traditional infrastructures and so on, we always had the possibility to find out if the infrastructure is ready for deployment before we applied something. When we are talking about some things as Gitops, as I told you before, in the moment where we push something to the Gitops repository, the Gitops controller might want to apply them to the Kubernetes cluster, and therefore this might get problematic. So one of the first questions for me when I deploy something is, do I want to allow deployments at this point in time? So is it okay for me at Black Friday at 12 o'clock, where the highest load is on the systems, to deploy a new version of my application there? There are many answers to that. I know that we can discuss about this some hours, but I also know some companies who don't want to do this. Then, furthermore, one thing we have in Kubernetes, and we talked about this to many people, is the problem of, are all of my dependencies fulfilled? So, for instance, I want to deploy a service which depends on a database, and I want to try to find out if this database is really there before deploying this application, or before updating this to a newer version. And last but not least, it might also be interesting to find out if infrastructure changes are already in progress. So maybe there is also some bug fixing in progress on a Kubernetes cluster. There are also some instabilities there. And it might also be interesting to find out, is it safe to deploy now? Another thing I told to you before is, at some point in time, I might want to deploy many services at once in one application, and try to find out if this application is running, and to have a specific combination of service versions and so on. So what you see on this slide here is that I said I have 3 services: one front-end service in a version 1, one backend service in a version 2, and a database in the version 3. And these 3 things might be known for the company or whatever as the application in the version 3. And the first thing I wanted to show you today was how we can deal with such readiness things and how they can help us. And for this, starting on the left side, the first thing I will do today is I will apply a manifest, and please imagine that I would do this via Gitops controller in a normal fashion. Today I will simply apply them, but it won't change anything. Afterwards, I will run some infrastructure readiness checks, and I will also show how I will do this. And for this, I've written a simple service for myself which simulates some kind of infrastructure readiness. So you will see there will be a check mark when the infrastructure is ready for accepting deployments. There will be if it's not. And me, so the nice guy with the head, is able to disable the maintenance. And after these readiness checks have finished, I will the deployment will the front end of the application will be deployed, and depending on this, all of the other services, so there are five backend services, will also be deployed. So one thing which would never be thinkable if we only had a Kubernetes cluster in a standardized way. Okay, and so let's start. The first thing I wanted to show you is on the right side, I have some kind of thing. So I have a view on my Kubernetes cluster. I will go to the Keptn namespace, only that you see what's happening there. I have some services deployed there. So I have the lifecycle tool operator itself. So this is the core component of Keptn, which adds some kind of resource types to the Kubernetes cluster and also takes care about some things. A second thing is we wrote a scheduler extension for Kubernetes, so that we also can wait for scheduling of pods until some prerequisites are filled.
So is it possible that you zoom in a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Better now?
Even the terminal. Yeah, the other side. Okay.
Is it better now, or should I make it a bit larger?
A bit larger. Yeah, that is better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, so these are the core components of Keptn. And the first thing I will do today, and let's make this a bit larger. So I have a simple application, and I'm not sure if anyone of you is familiar with the demo application from the Gap delivery. This is the potato head, but it's not really relevant today. I just wanted to show you some things. So at first, I have some kind of base here, and I have a simple Kubernetes manifest in there. The only thing I did for that was to make the lifecycle to make Keptn available in this namespace was I enabled it on the namespace. The second thing I did here was I labeled the application here. So I used Kubernetes recommended labels to say the service I have here is called Potato Head Frontend. This is part of Potato Head, and the part of level defines an application for Keptn. So in my case, the Potato Head consists of 6 services and so on. This also adds a version. We also have a version of this, so this will describe the version of the service. And here I defined a pre-deployment task, which will check if my infrastructure is ready. And in this case, this is my application, which simulates infrastructure readiness or not. You can also do this via real checks or whatever. But in my case, it will now say that my infrastructure is now in a maintenance mode. Therefore, it won't get deployed. Sorry, I didn't change the logo, but the application was the demo application was written for this KubeCon. Okay, good. Then I have only simple Kubernetes manifests as deployments and so on. I don't even have a service, I think, and so on, and whatever. Good. The second thing I have in my version 1, I defined a manifest. So this is a so-called Keptn app, which says I have an application which is called the Potato Head. And this should correspond to some annotation we made in the workloads before. And this tells Keptn that the Keptn app in the version 0.11 consists of these services in this version. So if this app manifest is applied and a Keptn version and a Potato Head left arm version with the version number 0.12 would reach the cluster, it wouldn't get deployed. And after this, so what we also do here is before we do some deployment of this application, we check for infrastructure readiness. And this is a thing I will do now. So I will simply do wrong directory, make deploy version 1. And just a second, I only want to make this. Okay, so I will deploy this now, and shortly I should have a new namespace here. And you see here that I got some pods here, which are pending at the moment. So they are waiting for some pre-deployment tasks. And what you also see here is that I have a pre-deployment task which checks for the infrastructure. And if I take a look on the logs here, hopefully it works. Now the window seems to be broken, but this should not be a big problem. Hours later. Hope that my cluster is still there. Seems that my cluster is broken. This is not so good. Okay, then let's do it in a different way. Normally, and I'm sorry for that, my Kubernetes cluster is broken, and it seems like I won't get it working in the next 3.5 minutes. So I will do this. I will describe what would happen now. So normally, when I could disable the maintenance mode here. This also doesn't work. And then in the meanwhile, I have a check running, which checks against this API if everything is running. And for Keptn, I have the possibility to declare such tasks in, let's make this one. I have such the possibility to declare such tasks in such a way. So I can make some kind of evaluation definition. This would be for metrics, but I also could declare some kind of tasks, which would look like this. And I can write some TypeScript functions, Python functions, shell scripts, or whatever, which might look like this. So in my case, this does nothing more than to query an HTTP URL and waits until it gets an OK back. Oh, is he back? Looks good. Okay, so my cluster is back. And now I hope I can okay, this is there. Okay, and the maintenance mode is also disabled now. Hopefully, my task finished now. Yes, this looks perfectly fine. So my pre-deployment check is finished now, and you see that my front-end application is also running now. Now that all of the other services are waiting for the front-end to appear. And one problem I had in my demo application today was that I implemented some kind of network policy which would not allow to reach the front end. So I have to delete network policy. And in a few seconds, also this front end checks should be completed. And what you see in the meanwhile, that yes, in this case, it couldn't fetch the URL. We also see that the pre-deployment check also found out that the infrastructure is not ready and retried. After some time, it retried and it finished. And hopefully, in a few seconds, also this will work. Sometimes it takes a bit longer. Okay, so yes, now it's running. So you see all of the tasks I started before terminating now, and after some time, also these things should start. So this is these are some delays due to the scheduling thing, but as soon as this is done, this will work. You can also monitor everything you see here via custom resources. So we have a Keptn app version, for instance. And you see here the whole application, and you see in which state it is. This might run at some point in time. But it might also be that this took too long. But let's see in the second thing. Good, to get back. Just a second, where are my slides? some reasons my slides are gone. There we are. Okay. Normally, if my cluster would have worked and so on, the application should be there now, and I will try to get it running afterwards. The second thing we want to know after something is how successful our deployment strategy is. And for that, as Keptn is using telemetry data to find out how long an application took to deploy, how it works, and so on. And one reason why we are doing all of this is when we are deploying something, we are always following a business purpose. So normally we don't deploy because we have because it's so funny, and we are not making things faster because it makes our lives easier. In fact, it should always bring some benefits to our business. So what we want to get out of this is we want to get measurable results of changes in our deployment strategy. So when we are deploying our application, we want to find out if it's working, how fast our customers can do their tasks, and so on. And last but not least, all of the things we are measuring help us taking the next steps in our deployment strategy and selling our strategy to the stakeholders. So for instance, if it took us months to get the new version out before, and after switching to a newer, better deployment strategy, only 5 minutes, and make customers happy more faster, then it also helps us selling our strategy to stakeholders. And there are some things we can do with such information. So for instance, if we have many unsuccessful deployments, it might be that we could improve our testing before deployment. So normally, if our deployments are unsuccessful, it's mainly because some things do not work, some things are not tested, and so on. But if we test something, and if this is well tested, our deployments might get more successful. Furthermore, if we have high velocity in bundle deployment, so as we saw it with the applications before, so if we can deploy applications every week or every 2 days and so on, we might consider decoupling these applications to smaller services and deploy the services independently more frequently. So this could be the positive way of having such metrics behind it. If we have a low velocity and many errors, maybe the low velocity is the problem. So in many books there's written, often when we are deploying not too often, it might be problematic because the code which is in production might be so the gap between the code which is in production might be too large for everything we have we have in the newer version. And therefore, I wanted to show you a second demo, and I hope this one will work better. What we can do with Keptn is to measure deployment frequency and success rate. And therefore, I will make this a bit clean now. Back. Hopefully this goes very fast. But now the deployment should also work very fast. And in this case, I will deploy the same thing again. And what Keptn can do also, I will also deploy this, really remove this again. What's also possible with Keptn is we get some metrics out of there. So this is a Grafana dashboard. Behind all of this, I installed Prometheus, I installed Jaeger, and also an OpenTelemetry collector. And with this, we also created some kind of dashboards which can show you how the application deployment is working at the moment. And what's really interesting about this is I get some information about the active deployments. I think this could take some seconds to be there. Now we see that one deployment is currently running. I see that 4 deployments failed. 4 deployments was successful, 2 failed. But I also see the average time between deployments is at around 4 minutes. This will get more now. But what's also important is I get some kind of a trace out of this, which shows me how long which step of my deployment took. And just a second. I hope this. Today my demo is not the best. Okay, but this is a thing I can show you based on the information I had before. And this was more or less the whole trace of a full application deployment. So I deployed, in this case, the potato head in the version 0.1.2. I had no application pre-deployment task, but I also had no evaluations, but I had an application deployment itself. And I see which of the tasks took how long and which of the services took how long. And this is very important to find out which services takes long to start, long to deploy, and so on, and also how often we can deploy this. There are many more things we could do. So the interesting part of this is we can see this information also based on every service. So we see when a deployment was active, we see how long it took us to deploy it, and so on. And we also see how many time we spent between 2 deployments. So there are many interesting parts behind it. And yes, so if you have running this, if you have this running a bit longer, this could look like this. So you could see that 4 deployments have succeeded. You see the time between the deployments of 2 versions. So in my case, it was between 2.0.2 and 3.0.2. You might see an average time between deployments. You have a deployment time, and you have a graph more or less when the last deployments were active. And with this, we see some kind of nice information, but one of the last things we don't see really. So, and this is if your application is really working, and therefore some short showcase. So at first, I have a simple application here. I deployed it and I said kubectl get pods, and I see that all of my pods are running perfectly fine. I also see that all of the services are running, so they are also perfectly fine. But in the end, it could also be that the web page is not available. And these are some things we might find in the first step that they are working perfectly fine. But in the end, the functionality of the deployment was not checked in the end. And therefore, we have many things which can go wrong. So we could have performance problems in the application. So just some things to my history. So I was a systems administrator for about 20 years, I think. I often deployed new applications. I often had some kind of smoke tests to find out if they are working. But in the end, on the next day, when the customers arrived, I had many problems in a performance-related fashion and so on. So these are all things we can check after we deploy an application. Furthermore, we might have functional problems. So it could be that we have a microservice application based on 5 applications. and we don't see that the 6.1 is not there. Furthermore, I think many of you know such kind of health checks which only return status okay. So this could also only be a simple HTTP request which shows, yes, something is working, but it's not showing how good it's working. And in the end, it's always about that individual services are running fine, but we don't know if the application itself is running. And with that, and with Keptn, we can find out if our application is working. So there are several phases implemented in the whole lifecycle toolkit, which tells us before an deployment, this was what we saw before. We could prepare some kind of infrastructure, we could evaluate metrics and find out if the infrastructure is in a state where it's okay to deploy something there. After that, we can deploy some workloads. And after that, we can check if the workloads we deployed are really working. So we could run tests and notify someone if it's not working. We can evaluate metrics and find out, yes, if the application behaves like it should. And for the workload deployments, we see that the whole pre-deployment, workload deployment, and post-deployment things are also working on a workload level. Normally, I would have a demo for that. After the demo code is not very nice to me today, I will skip this. But this is a possibility how to implement this. So I could apply a manifest. I could check for infrastructure readiness. So this was the thing I did before. I could deploy a new service, and I could check for problems and send the result. And in this demo, I used ChatGPT to find out if the application is running, if something is misconfigured, and so on. And in the end, I wrote this to another service. This looked like this. I had a timestamp. I saw that ChatGPT did something, and it told me that it failed or it was okay, and so on. With this, I said the talk was called "How to Deploy at Friday Night." Normally at Friday night, we should take when we are deploying at Friday night, we should take care of that our application is really running, that it's stable in the end, and that it takes certain actions to recover if something is not working. So the very first thing every DevOps cloud engineer and so on should be aware of is the application he or she is running. So if you have insights into the application, if you have metrics, if you have traces and so on, it's much easier for you to create such mechanisms. Furthermore, with this telemetry data, you can make improvements. So if you find out that after a deployment, the application is running very slowly or not very smoothly, you can create more metrics, you can find out, you can add more, or you can check more telemetry data after a deployment, and you also can take actions based on that. Furthermore, in some cases, it might be interesting to check readiness before deployment. So what I showed you before with the infrastructure readiness service was only one case where you could tell your SREs or whatever that they should stop deployment, that they can say at the moment deployment is not possible. But it could also be that you make such readiness checks also based on telemetry data and also based on error budgets. So it might be that your error budget is already burned, your customers are already very angry, and you don't want to put more instability in your services. And this could also be things you can check before your deployment. Furthermore, you can run validation steps after your deployment. So for instance, check if everything is running as it should, do some kind of performance tests and so on. And after that, you might sleep better on the night from Friday to Saturday. Things which came to Keptn in the last few months was that you could use Keptn metrics also for autoscaling. So we also created some kind of a Keptn of a metric server inside of Keptn, similar to Keda, where you can get in metrics. You can use them for validation, but also for autoscaling or whatever you want. They can be used by Keda. They can be used by the Kubernetes HPA. I think you can also use them with Argo rollouts and so on. When you want to write functions for Keptn, you can write them in various ways. So I think in the meanwhile, it should be possible to write Keptn functions in Python, shell or TypeScript functions, and in the meanwhile, you can also run containers. So there are many ways to start tasks in Keptn. Furthermore, I told you that I showed you the Keptn app manifest before, and in the meanwhile, Keptn is automatically able to detect applications through annotations of manifests. And in the end, when it comes to promotion in Gitops ways, Keptn is also able to detect links and write them in Kubernetes manifests. So you can also get a trace throughout many stages and get the whole deployment workflow done. Yes, and as Keptn is an open source project, every one of you can contribute. So there is a repository for Keptn, which is called Keptn Enhancement Proposals. There are always things in there how Keptn should be enhanced. You can always comment there, write new enhancement proposals, and so on. Furthermore, there's a repository called the Keptn Lifecycle Toolkit, where you can find issues, find where you can contribute, find out what's on the roadmap, and so on. And I think the thing you see here is we also pre-wrote some Keptn tasks where you can also find out what's possible. To get in touch with me or with us, I think yes, there are many ways. So at first, the repository of everything you saw here is in the Keptn Lifecycle Toolkit. It is open source. It will stay open source, and it belongs to the CNCF. So therefore, every contribution is valuable for us. You can also share your thoughts. So if you find out, yes, Keptn would be a cool thing for me, but this and this and this would not work. Always raise an issue, ping us on the CNCF Slack, and you can also write proposals how to enhance it. And in the end, if you want to contribute, we are happy to help you to get your PR accepted, and we are always happy about contributions. And you find us on the Keptn channel in the CNCF Slack. Okay, and with this, I think I spoke longer than I expected. I hope you had much fun. Sorry another time for the demo. Hopefully I will get it working the next time. But I hope you had as much fun with this presentation as me. And I'm not sure if there is still place for questions.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. There is still room for question. So if anyone has a question, you can raise your hand, and you can also type on the chat. So if you have a question, you can type on the chat, and you can also raise your hand, and I'll give you a chance to speak. Anyone with a question or a comment? Is there any question from anyone or a comment? Are you guys able to raise your hand or type? Okay, so I think there's no question. So how was the session? Maybe you can send your response on the chat. So you can just type on the chat how was the session, or we can even get someone to speak. What do you think you've learned today, or something of the sort? Is there anyone? So, Jakim, you're asking for my contact details. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm Samuel Kadima. Or you can join the community. Then I think LinkedIn will be easier. Yeah. So, is there anyone with anything to say? So I can see some feedback here on the chat. Stanley O says, love the session. Overall, though, was looking forward to the full deployment. So sorry about that. I believe we'll have another chance next time for a full deployment that works. So it's normal to have such challenges. So Franklin says, it's been a great session. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Jakim says thanks for the guidelines. And then we have Ebenezer says good session. So for me, I think I enjoyed the session. It was such an informative session, and I look forward to more sessions. From you, yeah. So looking forward to reaching out to you again to do another session with us in future.
Yes, hopefully the next time with a working demo.
Yeah. But that was so good. So thank you so much for taking your time as well to prepare for the presentation. And thank you everyone for joining the meeting. So I'll be sharing the recording to this session on our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel is Nairobi DevOps Community. So you can just check it out. And we have videos of past events as well. So if you just joined the community and there is something you missed, you can, or you'd like to see what people have been doing, you can go to the YouTube channel and watch the videos of sessions that other speakers have done in the past. So our community is just geared towards ensuring that people can learn and grow. So that is why we have the channel. So you can go and see anything that you've missed, and also if you think you can share any, you can be able to do a session. You can also reach out, and we'll be able to give put you on the timetable so that you can be able to uh, do a session with us. So let me just share in case there is someone here who has not joined the community. You can just scan the codes that I'm sharing, the QR codes, and you'll be able to join the community. So there, you'll be able to see people who are engaging in the community. You can be able to contribute as well, and you will be able to see when we announce things, when we have events. You'll be able to follow along and get updated in time. So we normally have these online events bi-weekly, and then we also have physical events. So next week we have a data center visit that will be happening on Thursday and Friday. So for the data center visit, the people who will be going to the data center visit are the ones who already submitted their names. For security reasons, the names had to be submitted earlier. But will be having another physical session, like a workshop, probably next month. Yeah. So looking forward to that. And I wish you guys a good night, and looking forward to more interaction. If there is no question, feel free to drop from the meeting. So bye bye, guys. Have a good week ahead.